everyone, and welcome to another episode of How the Hell Is This My Life? I'm your host, Kiki Carroll,
And I'm your host, Asha Brown.
and we are back to basically wind out the end of the month because it's already the end of March, and April starts like Thursday. So that went by really, really quickly. I don't know if for anybody else, but I can say for both of us it did. But Good Friday. Like Good Friday is already this weekend. Do you have any Easter plans? Do you have any plans this weekend?
Well, let me tell you, you already know I am a lover of the Lord and Jesus Christ. I will say it for everyone who is listening. Okay? The Lord died for Jesus died for our sins and he woke up again. He was raised again on Sunday. And so this is a big weekend for me. Very big weekend for me. But there will be a lot of church. There will be a lot of devotional time with me and my fiance. Speaking of church, I will be singing on it. um, so I will be on Hillsong East Coast Good Friday service Friday night, and then on Sunday for Easter as well. So always a really big weekend, the biggest weekend for Christians. So it's my week. Nothing can really bring me down. I mean, like, still a normal human, but like during Easter week is just like it's a little harder to get me down, you know. It's a big deal. What about you?
No, no. I've been feeling drained. I've been feeling really drained. Like, obviously, I had legitimate reasons to be drained from your shower, like, and the execution and all that kind of stuff. But even, I feel like the minute that was done and bookend that's closed, success, by the way, just like, then it was like, okay, the things that I had put off on like bookending for my wedding were like, we over here, you have less than 60 days, you need to pay attention to us. And just like some little planning bumps and just some personnel issues, I feel like it's got me drained. So I don't want to do anything this weekend. Like, I just want to take that extra day because I don't work on Friday, and just some self-care on extra, a little bit of like some meditation, just some quiet time, some silence. That'd be great. I don't know how achievable that is, but that would be great. That is my end game.
I feel you. I feel like that was me last weekend. I mean, that's my desire every weekend. Because Shorty leads a very busy life, but am I ever successful? Literally no. So here we are. So I was very happy that it rained on Sunday. I was like, oh yeah, this is an introvert's dream. No one's asking me to go anywhere or do anything because it's raining. Who wants to do anything?
Yeah, I can't physically go out. I'm sugar. I will melt.
Right. It's like, it's raining. I don't know if you noticed. It's raining. Yeah, so let's just not on that. Also, like, to your point, I just feel like, listen, people out there, if you are blessed enough to be a bride and a maid of honor at the same time, 10 out of 10 recommend, but also 10 out of 10 don't. And I think
the biggest blessing.
We can both vouch for that.
It's the biggest blessing, and it's also the biggest headache.
Yeah.
But like, obviously, like, you wouldn't do it for anybody else. I wouldn't do it for anybody else. It's more a blessing than it is a headache. But it's just a lot of work. I mean, you already have so much planning that's going into your own wedding. And this might not be the case for some brides, because some brides don't pay for their own wedding. There are plenty of brides out there whose parents are in a financial space where they want to do that. Like, they've been planning for their entire lives for when they get married, and they've got this little nest egg for that, and they want to do that. I'm not quite sure if that nest egg was a thing, just how much so I'd use it. I think we would still end up paying for our own wedding because of what I've discovered. And I think that probably every bride has discovered this, but I feel like when somebody else besides the bride and groom are paying for things, at the wedding. It gives those people who are paying for things like this sense of autonomy and decision making that really isn't there, you know. And I think it's all rooted in a good place. Like you just want to help make all the events beautiful, help make all the events grand, you know, just go to the extra, to the next level because you only get married once, right? I think it's always rooted in wanting to have like the best event where nobody is missed, like everybody who's important is there, everybody feels special when they're there, everybody feels great, looks great, like it's very memorable. However, sometimes what you may think as a member of the bridal party or as a family member of the bridal party, what you may think is grand and special and important may not actually align with what the bride and the groom think is grand and special and important. And so I've hit a couple snags along the way, like even like in planning, like I am sure that you have too, like when you're planning things in a group, because first up, y'all know that it's not easy having a group of girls together. So you're gonna get a group of all of our friends are strong, independent, very articulate, very creative minded, just very compassionate people, right? So when your energy is high and everybody thinks that they're doing their best for their bride, right? Sometimes that doesn't always align, and sometimes that can cause bumps in communication, that can cause bumps in planning. Same thing as if you have other family members contributing financially, they start to feel like some of the things that they think is going to be the best of the best can start to outweigh what the bride and groom may think is the best of the best. And so I just feel like at the end of the day, as a PSA to anybody who's watching this, and I'm sure there may be brides that don't agree with this, but there also are plenty of brides I know because I have talked to them who do agree with it. At the end of the day, the most important thing is the bride and the groom and their union. And if you don't have an understanding that you may or may not completely know what this specific bride and groom want or what they have envisioned for themselves, when they try and tell you, listen to them. When they try and tell you, listen to them. Because it's their day. It's their day. It's their shower, it's their bachelorette party, it's their rehearsal dinner, it's their ceremony, you know, and whatever they want to do, okay. And by the end of the reception, everybody's gonna be drunk and nobody's gonna remember anything anyways. So
I mean, yes, but I had the opposite problem, child. Somebody pay for something. Somebody pay for something. PSA to the other side. That's just like, hello, somebody please pay for something, and I will gladly give you the reins. Take it. Take it.
You say that, and financially, I do think that it's helpful to have all the help. But you, my dear, are just as much, if not more, of a
Not if it was
than I am.
The people who would be helping, like my mom, like
Yeah,
my mom knows me like I literally like the back of her hand. So it was like I would be able to give her something and be like, okay, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about this. Just leave me alone. Just take it. You know. But yeah, I mean I totally understand where you're coming from, and I've heard all of the things, so I know.
you know, every bride always says that. Every bride.
Yeah.
And you would think that if every bride is always mentioning after their wedding, right, that you know some of these things weren't important. I wish that I'd had more time, more than all the fluff and all of that. But also, you know, I've had conversations with brides who said that their guest list, right, that like for them they had actually wanted a small wedding, but for other people their guest list was much larger than what they wanted, and then not all those people show up, or they don't even get a chance to see all of those people. So was it really worth it? Or people will say, you know, they picked a color that wasn't really one that they wanted. Like, listen, I'm not the bride, but I've talked to a lot of brides about this. But there's the common theme is that after the wedding, they realize that they had been talked into and or pressured into doing things or having things done at their wedding that wasn't necessarily them, wasn't necessarily like their vision and their spirit, and they buckle under the pressure. I've experienced some of that throughout this planning process, some of that pressure. I'm not saying that I've experienced it like overwhelmingly, but I've gotten a little taste of that. And so I just think that it's a nice PSA to share, since we talk about like some of the stresses of planning a wedding, is that like at the end of the day, as well intentioned as a person may be, you know, when somebody is trying to plan something and somebody is in charge of planning something for a bride and groom, they've been entrusted to do that planning by the bride and groom, so let them do it. You know, they don't need to be questioned. They don't need to they don't, if they ask for the help, they need the help, that kind of a thing. And or if it's not your wedding and somebody is saying, you know, I don't think that this is important, if you're paying for something, just kind of keep in mind that like your well intentions are seen and we're grateful for them. However, also listen to what's being said. You know, I think that some people get in their own way, just trying to be amazing for somebody, but like that can get a little muddled through the way.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot. Like I have turned, there's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to do. Every vendor has been verified. Every menu has been turned in. Every entree selection has been sent in. It is like lists are made, and they'll like one list has gone out to the bridal party already, but like all of those lists and like day of schedules and things like that, those are made and will be handed out appropriately once I get my weekend of sleep. Then I will share. But there's nothing else to do but attend appointments for me. But I felt like it all those due dates for me, and I knew it was coming. All those due dates for me were right after your shower.
Yep. Of course. That's what I'm saying, man. 10 out of 10 recommend, but 10 out of 10 also might not. It's not for the faint of heart.
Oh no. I mean, I thought that I was pretty decent in multitasking.
Um, this goes
Bomb.
beyond multitasking.
Bomb. So good at multitasking.
This goes way beyond. There's a different word. This is past multitasking.
Yeah.
Yeah, way past multitasking. I can't.
Yeah, so I'm gonna rest this weekend because all of that planning is done, and then
We got
we
a
have
big weekend coming up after.
to save my energy.
Yes, you better. You better. Okay.
I've been told that it's not a secret. However, I also still don't really know a lot about what's going on.
I mean, here's the thing. We've already talked about this. We're going to an all-inclusive resort. What more is there to do? It's COVID. Like, it's like, regardless, be excited because it's gonna be fun. Either way, we gonna be in the same place.
Safely traveling. Safely traveling. But yeah, like this is like the first like decently sized trip I've taken like during COVID. Because I don't consider going to North Carolina
Decently sized.
dangerous.
Decently sized. I would agree. Listen, I'm just excited to be on somebody's beach and somebody's pool. I'm really excited for that. And to have just like drinks on tap, like just put it.
Keep my coconut full.
A bit more, please. Just a bit more.
I think it'll be fun. I think that a few of the girls, I think we just have like a good bunch of girls that are going, and none of us in this combination, not even half of this combination of girls have ever traveled together before. like on a trip. We were supposed to go to Atlantic City with the Golden Girls with Bethany and Jesse, and that got canceled because of COVID. And that would have been our first without the boys, just the girls, because it's different. It is different without the boys. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to get to wear some clothes that did not get to be worn last year. Didn't get to see the sun.
Right.
No?
At this point, I don't even remember. It was so long ago, but it's so funny because I feel like it's almost around the same time. Like we were supposed to go to Atlantic City. When was that? It was
I
about
think
like almost exactly a year.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it was like May or June or something, like the very beginning of June, May or something. We were just hoping for like nice weather.
Yeah. And instead, that took a turn. But yeah, I'm excited, super duper excited. We gonna be lit. We gonna be twerking on a beach. We gonna be twerking on a pool. It's gonna be a whole situation, relaxation in the sun with drinks in hand.
Yes.
That's the way I like to live my life. And so I'm just saying.
I'm I feel like this is what I've been working towards this whole time. Everybody thought I was working towards my wedding dress, but I really wasn't. There's a corset in that, okay? I don't need to work towards fitting in my wedding dress. It's being tailored to me, and there's a corset in there. What I've been working all these weeks to like try and tone up my body has been for this trip. This trip. So, I mean, I fell off hard for your shower week, but that was valid. It was a valid reason. But so I took that week after to reset. And so last week I got to like kind of get back into it. Muscle memory is a thing. But also I felt good. Like I felt like that was part of like the drainingness of the like, you know, when you're finished with a big project, you're like, yes, and then you're like, oh, okay. But like part of that was like my energy level from like not working out. So that was like nice to get back into it. So I met with Lauren last week and we worked out outside. It was so nice to like be warm enough to be outside and work out, except for the neighbor that I don't like, which is a story for another day. Okay, we could have a whole story about neighbors in New York City.
Okay.
We could bunk beds, we could talk about it. But that same neighbor had come out because he wanted to smoke a joint, I guess. And let me tell you, it was a little distracting having that scent. Even though you're outside, it's still strong. So I was a little winded for a second. But beyond that, it was really nice to be out and working out and back at it again. So I'm feeling like, put me in a swimsuit. I'll do it. I'm ready.
Listen, you can't keep me out of a swimsuit any time of year, any time of day. We all know you've gotten the pictures. When my booty is out,
Out. It's just out. It stays out.
it's a situation. I turn into a different person. I need to come up with a name for her, like the one who emerges when I get to be naked, because she is living her best life.
That one is not so people who don't know, like Asha has this alter ego we call Mel. And Mal is when her London strikes. Like it's very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. But it just like pops out. All of a sudden there'll be an accent. You're not quite sure what's happening. But Mel comes and goes as she pleases. Mel is not the same as Dance Hall. And I don't think we've ever named her.
There's a lot of personalities and most of them don't have names. But the one that comes out when I get to be naked and these booty cheeks come to play, honey, is a whole different situation. So I'm
People
ready.
get named.
Always ready to be booty out on a beach or at a pool. So yes, I'm very excited to be in my swimsuit. And I just feel like I think the past couple of weeks it's really been heavy on my heart because I just realized how much, as women, how much of our conversations are centered around our sizes and our bodies. And it actually has gotten to a point where I'm just like, a big part of it is the patriarchy. We know the unrealistic standards of beauty that men have kind of perpetuated and kind of almost like just like increased this like innate competition that's always like between women and stuff like that. And I just feel like every time I'm around my family, that that kind of falls away, because you just realize just how much beauty is in the history, especially Black women's bodies, how much beauty is in the history, and how everything that we've been through as Black women in this world, it shows on our body. And I have been really doing some deep work to accept these things. One of my favorite people in the entire world is my grandmother. One of my favorite people in the entire world is my mother. And I am noticing day in and day out that my body is becoming more and more like them than it ever has been. My body has always actually been different than most of the rest of my family. And it's like, now that I'm getting older, it's definitely showing that it's morphing into, I see my grandmother in me, I see my mother in me. And it's like, well, why am I fighting this? And I realized that a big part of it comes from the conversations that, yes, going back to it, the patriarchy is a big deal, but women need to realize that we are actually perpetuating all of those things that have been started. So like, I'm just like starting to get into a different mindset where I'm like challenging myself to change the conversation when it starts happening, to encourage women to start to look at it differently. Because, and it's not, I'm talking to myself too, you know, and I'm just like, we spend so much time talking about this. And it's just, it blows my mind that it occupies so much capacity in our brains and in our hearts. And I think that it's something that there just needs to be a release. And I think that it starts with each and every woman when you're when talking to friends, like not necessarily, if that's what's on your, like not necessarily changing the subject, but changing your narrative and perspective around when you're talking about your body, when you're talking about you know, your goals and things like that. The goal should be, yes, to be healthy, to live a long, healthy life, to live your best life. But like, our bodies, we talk about that image so much and our sizes so much. And I'm just like, I no longer want to be a part of it. Like, I'm just like, for my own like mental health, but also like, because I realized that I never had these thoughts before. You know, I never had these thoughts on my own. It's because you start to see other people and things like that. But then you get around your family and I'm like, oh, I'm home, I'm chilling. They like, hey, you got some booty back there. I'm like, yes. You know, we're all like, give me more. They were always like, we was waiting for your booty to drop, you know? And it's like, but because I'm away from my family, you don't get that every day. Instead, you're looking at, honestly, you looking at these white girls, to be honest, I'm just put it out there. You looking at these white girls and you live in New York City and these things, and so you start to like take on these other views. But that's not, I don't like it. I don't like that. And I love to be around my family because I always feel recharged and like just renewed. And I'm like, the booty gonna be out regardless. So I got my little hula hoop. I got my little hula hoop on the way because I always done had a snatch waist, so we just go keep that nice and snatched, okay? But the booty, I'm just gonna let it free, let it wild and free, especially because let me tell you something. When I go on my honeymoon, we need a little extra. We need a little extra cushion, you know, for you know what. We need a little extra cushion for the cushion. I'm just saying, so you know, that's just my little take that it's been heavy on my mind recently. And it's just, I really, my heart is just going out to all the women around me. I'm also a dancer. I'm around dancers all the time. These conversations naturally come up so much. And I think I have a friend who constantly says, Watch how you talking about my friend. And you're not talking about nobody else. She says that when you're talking about yourself. When you start to talk about those things, she'd be like, watch how you talking about my friend. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna adopt that. I'm adopted for myself too. Because it's become a pandemic amongst the pandemic, especially because of the pandemic. The pandemic pounds. But yeah, that's my little spiel for the world, for all the women out there listening, specifically Black women out there listening. Oh man, but I'm ready for my hula hoop. My hula hoop is gonna be on the way sometime within the next week. I think it's supposed to be here on Friday, so I'll definitely report back because I love hula hooping, so I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that. TikTok has made me buy a lot of things, and I spend a little bit too much time on TikTok.
TikTok though, like TikTok just brings everything to the table. You know, you get a little bit of fitness, you get a little bit of fashion, you get a little bit of drama, you get a little bit of dancing, you get a little bit of what did I just watch?
So you don't even need to watch the news anymore. Just watch TikTok and you know what the current events are.
I don't know. Like I'm sure that like places like TMZ and the Shade Room and stuff like that were posting about Derrick Jaxn and his wife and that whole scandal, but that's not how I discovered it. I discovered it on TikTok.
I would almost rather discover it through funny videos when you're just like, what is happening? Why do I keep seeing people do this?
And there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them right now.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them when it comes to that. If you don't know what we're talking about, essentially Derrick Jaxn is made his claim to fame by being in a relationship guru. He has written a slew of books on relationships, and he is most notably always found in a car on his phone telling the world, especially women, what they do not need to accept behavior wise from men, what male behavior, what that male behavior means, you know, like essentially like if he's not calling you, he doesn't want to call you, like breaking down those types of things, right? Like people will be like, oh, maybe they're not responding to my text message because they're busy. Everybody responds to a text message. If he's not responding to your text message, it's because he doesn't want to respond to your text message. So little coined phrases and things like that, breaking that down and kind of like assessing the relationship, and also be the first one to hop down any cheater's throat, come for just like disrespectful behavior to your woman, not elevating your woman. So imagine the internet's surprise when it comes to light that this same man has been cheating on his wife of 4 years. And I mean, but they've been in a relationship for like 11 years. So has been cheating on his wife. So, you know, Derrick Jaxn also, we've now discovered, likes to talk in the third person a lot. And so he brought his wife onto camera and explained the situation and basically said that, yes, he had cheated. He also, I don't know if you caught it, blamed God for that. I don't think God did that, bro. And said that she knows they worked through this, whatever. She's standing by her man, like he held her hand the entire time. I can't thank the internet enough for the trash videos. And you know, there was a slew of other videos that came after the fact. I think that she received a lot of criticism, and so she ended up putting a video out solo. That was an interesting video. Also, they went on to a live Instagram to answer questions after that video, explaining the scandal. Also, though, after the fact, a third like relationship, like a second mistress came out, supposedly pregnant as well. She made the detail known that if you see pillars in the back of his videos when he's talking about being faithful in a relationship, that's her house. But the only thing I have to say about this, because I think it's funny. I think it's interesting that like this is your call to fame, but I'm not surprised because many people in life will talk the most about the thing that they are the most insecure about and or are struggling with the most, right? Doth protest too much. That's where that comes from. People who want to go out and pick on people or judge people for wearing makeup, a full face of makeup. Like, why do you have to do that? I do natural. Like, I'm so like, it's also a tell sign that that's probably something that you struggle with or you internalize or you have an insecurity about. So for it to come out that this relationship guru who goes hard on cheating and goes hard on not respecting your woman is guilty of that did not surprise me.
Absolutely not.
What I didn't like, this is what I didn't like. All jokes aside, because the jokes were funny, you can't help but laugh. But what I didn't like is the way that after that whole conversation was videotaped and they were together and he was holding her hand, all of that, I felt like I watched that video and I got something completely different than the mass majority of the people that watched that video. I feel like the mass majority of people who watched that video were so concerned with her attire. We're so concerned with the fact that she got into a video in her bonnet and her sweats and just if that's I saw so many negative comments about like not being able to keep her man satisfied if this is the way that she dresses in this out. She first off, she's in her own home, she can wear whatever she wants. She's on her own couch, she wants to wear her bonnet. You know how much work goes into doing your hair? I don't want to do that for this either. Okay, why would I get dressed up for this? Anyways, that's where the mass majority of comments like were negative and they were in this negative space. And I watched it and I was like, I'm concerned for her safety. I could care less what she's wearing. And it was kind of like shocking that like I was surprised by that. I wasn't surprised by what he did. I wasn't surprised by the third person commentary he gave when he would be talking about it as if he was talking about a completely different person cheating. I was really like thrown by just the negative response towards her who did nothing and about the way that she looked during this video when why are we not concerned for her safety? Why are we not concerned for her mental health and her well-being? Why are we not concerned that like if she's chosen to stay in this relationship that he's not really letting her voice. Every time she would start to say something and be passionate about something, she would kind of get like, I don't want to interrupt, but I'm gonna interrupt. That's like gaslighting 101. You know? So that surprised me. I felt like I know there's always going to be internet jokes, you know? So when I saw her in a bond, I was like, oh, somebody's going to crack something. But the way that the internet went in so hard on her for choosing to stay, which is her choice, we're not in that marriage, but for choosing to stay and for the way that she presented herself in that video, like that was the most important thing you got out of what you watched. That threw me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of videos about more of what you're talking about like, sis, blink twice if you need help. Yeah. And also like the hand holding and all that stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of the responses, I mean, yeah, I've seen a couple about her, you know, having on a bonnet or whatever, which, I mean, I don't care who it is. To be honest, I don't go nowhere in no bonnet and I don't let nobody see me in no bonnet. So I don't care who you are. Like, I get it. Like, I just, as soon as I saw the bonnet, I was like, I know people about to come for her because even in a different context, it's just a Black community joke where it's like somebody leave the house in the bonnet or come on the internet in the bonnet. It's a whole different story. But I've seen a lot of people like concerned for her because the last thing I would be doing is even if I choose to say, fool, you better get on the interwebs and you better have that conversation with the public yourself. I will not be there. I will not be present. Yeah, I'm still with you or whatever, but you got me messed up if you think that I'm finna get on this thing holding your hand. But everybody's different, to each their own. Do you? But I've seen some things about that, like just like blink twice if you need us to come get you, because it just seemed really suspect. And I just think in general, for somebody to have done that, for somebody to have been, this is not a, oh, he slipped and fell and his junk went in the wrong spot and like it was an accident, a one-time thing. This was a perpetual thing. It was a perpetual issue in their relationship. And I just feel like a lot of the time, and I hope that's not the case here, but a lot of the time, the choice to stay does come from being afraid, literally afraid to leave this person. And I mean, at this point, I'm like, I don't put it past, I don't put it past him because he's out here living a whole double life, you know. Got people like he's clearly smart enough to get people this major following and be out here in these streets. I'm just one question I have though is, and this actually goes right back into what I was just saying, is what is this man telling people are doing, or like, because how did none of these women, how does this just come up right now? Like, how did you really persuade all of these people to be involved in your lie? There's something else going on. And that's why I'm like, sis, please blink twice if you need us to come get you. Because how does somebody achieve that?
I think also that's like, I think he has a type, right? And like there are still people that are not like one of them was a doctor who doesn't like has like social media, doesn't really use social media very often, but doesn't have the time. You know, like we're talking, you're popping over for some quick stuff because I'm a doctor. I spend most of my time in the ER. I'm not out here on social media and telling them a snippet of what you're doing, but then also that tried and true age old story of my wife done me wrong and we are separated. And what happens when you tell people that? When they find out you're not separated, they talk. Because you told me you were separated on your way out the door, don't even live with this person. However long it takes for me to discover that that's a lie, once I find out it's a lie, okay. And there was one woman, I think that there was one that knew. There was one that knew. And she was okay with being with what she thought was a separated man, not legally divorced or whatnot. That's not for me. I can't, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Let me tell you something. At the same time, I will say that there's the people who they're like, yes, he is very much wrong here. But if I was one of those women, of course I'm gonna say I didn't know. Of course I'm gonna say I didn't know. No one ain't gonna know you, because that's one thing you can't really confirm unless like
oh no
receipts or something like that. So I can say, well, I'm saying like if I'm the woman though, like I can say, oh, I didn't know. I thought he was separated. You know, like yeah. So we don't know who knew what from who didn't know what. But at the same time, I'm just like, I'm praying for sis because I just feel like I don't trust him, and I don't think the world trusts him anymore. But like, I don't trust him in the sense of like, I don't know what he does at home, or like if he's super controlling, or like what that dynamic looks like. But it seemed real suspect in that whole video.
I mean, for somebody who's made his money off of his words, he seems like he has a very skilled ability to manipulate. Like that's the most dangerous narcissist out there, is with words to be able to twist situations and things that are said into working for you and the way that you want a situation to turn out. So I feel like it could be you can be not safe and you can be trapped, and it's nothing physical. Like it can 100% be the way that somebody twists and turns your own words and a situation into basically a cage where like somehow you're wrong, somehow you did something, somehow it doesn't make sense, like somehow you'd be breaking the word of God that you follow so closely if you leave me.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be breaking your faith. You'll be stepping out on God if you leave me. I mean, she seems to be a very, very faith driven woman. And he seems to know exactly what to say to play on her faith and her devotion to God, as if staying with him keeps her on the path of righteousness. And that is scary.
Yeah.
That is really
It
scary.
could be all of the above. It's very concerning.
You know, I mean, that was going on this week. I mean, we spent so much time talking about what happened with Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood, and I mispronounced Elaine Weltworth, which I wanted to correct because she's the bomb. But Sharon will not be returning to the talk, so I found that out on TikTok too. Bye. And
Riddance.
you know, and just I haven't seen too much yet. I've seen some snippets and coverage, not so much on TikTok, but like on Twitter and Instagram, especially from Sean King, because he's, you know, grassroots law and all of that. I'm really following it. But the trial against Derek Chauvin started today, and all I gotta say is, like, the tone is already set. I mean, the craziness of the fact that this is not an open and shut case just further solidifies the fact that the system was never intended to protect a black man or a black woman. But I mean, if you didn't know already, the very first witness that was called was a 911 dispatcher who, watching the cameras from their body cameras and whatnot, watching the scenario play out, felt concerned during the entire exchange that she called the police on the police. The 911 dispatcher. That's what the case opened with, was her testimony, was the playing of the recording of her on this whole dispatch with them during this, watching this, being concerned, and calling her police supervisor because she was concerned for the way that they were handling this man and wanted police dispatched on the police. But I still bet you it takes 6 months for us to. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that he's going to be acquitted. I would hope that that would not happen, but I just feel like this case that's to me is open and shut will be drawn out for months. And I just don't think that whatever that they do, I would be very pleasantly surprised if they gave him the whole chair and the whole book. Surprised. I'd be surprised.
Yep.
But
I
that started today.
yep. I don't have much more to say other than let me know what happens, because it's just, it honestly has gotten to the point at this, like, it's gotten to the point where it's like pouring salt in an open wound to consistently, like, follow these things. Like, to know what's going on is one thing, but, like, it's really hard to follow them and have, like, no hope. You feel yourself having no hope, and just really expecting the worst, which it sucks that that's kind of where we are. And it's like, I've been living in this skin, living this life for a long time, and it's like, I can only hope and pray that I'm surprised. I'm hoping that I am surprised here. I'm hoping to be surprised. But it's really hard to, like, to have hope in this system that if things go the worst, the system is doing exactly what it was built to do. So it's really, it sucks. It's terrible. I truly do not think at this point, especially after Breonna Taylor and all that, like, I truly don't think that we've made the progress that people have been talking about. There is so much work to be done, and I'm really hoping I'm surprised and that this is a step in the right direction. But yeah, to protect your mental health, sometimes you gotta stay away from these trials when they're happening, especially nowadays, because it just seems to be one after the other. So
Yeah.
it's, Uh-huh.
That's also why I think that it is important to, I've said this before, to curate what your intake is. You know, like I think that what does your feed look like? Does it bring you joy? What are you like watching? What are you listening to? Like what are you taking in every day? Because if you're only taking in like the serious news, you got to find some joy somewhere. And I mean, I feel like our for you pages are pretty much the same for you page on TikTok. But it's been bringing me joy and also like good conversation, like not necessarily too heavy. Sometimes like the right balance of like a conversation like that needs to be talked about. Like you brought it up the other day about Tanika B, and I watched that too. And I mean, I love to watch her for her travel content, for her fashion inspiration, right? She's got so much color on her feed, but she also has good conversation.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think especially nowadays where, TikTok, there could be so many people following you, and there could be all these people who are like watching what you're doing, and you have no idea who you're reaching. Obviously, one of the conversations that she brought up this week was just, she asked on her story if anybody knows of a dark skinned Black woman who is a fashion influencer, not beauty, not lifestyle, not all these other, fashion influencer who has a million or plus followers on Instagram. And part of the reason why she was bringing this up is because it nowadays TikTok and Instagram are really big foundations for people are quitting their jobs and working full time for social media. And in order to get these big brand partnerships, you have to have a certain amount of following, and it is becoming more and more competitive as time goes on. And so just trying to get down to the bottom of like, one, as somebody who is really up there in followers and like a very much like a fashion influencer, like why, like you would think she would know people who are over a million followers who are dark skinned women. And there's so many layers to it, right? There's the Black side, there is the colorism side, which that's a conversation for a whole nother podcast, because I could go on for days and days and days about that, honey. And then there's just like the fact that there's like the side of things where there's a layer where she I think she does a pretty good mix of luxury and non-luxury, but she is also very much an advocate for luxury, but also she talks a lot about Black brands from all different price points and all that stuff. So I think there's so many layers to her following, and just the conversation was I'm so glad when people use their platform for things like that. And it wasn't a hostile conversation. It wasn't, her blaming it. And even those moments when people would say things like, Black people need to support Black people. And she was like, I actually reject that. And I have so much respect for somebody being able to just be like, straight up on live, somebody put the comment, I reject that notion. Black people do support Black people because most of my followers are Black. Let's really try to, she really just wanted to get down to the bottom of like, what are the reasons why this is the case? And so I think like already loved her, already been following her, but like that just took my respect to like, another level, especially as a Black woman who is not light skinned and who has been and who is curating content and all those things. And my content goes a lot deeper than just fashion content. It's something that people kept saying I should do. I was like, it's a place to start, have some fun, but there is so much on the docket. So I wouldn't even consider myself aspiring to be a fashion influencer, but it was just literally that conversation is something that I think needs to be talked about across multiple niches, multiple areas of business. Like, because I talk to my fiance all the time just about dark-skinned women in the music business. Don't get me started. I can go on for days. So I just really love that conversation. Just like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about dark-skinned women in all circles of life and the way that things are a little bit different for different people. So I really respected that this week. And if you're not following her already, go follow Tanika B on both TikTok and Instagram. Really great content, fashion content. You know me and in colors, man. So I'm all about the colors she be bringing. So really, really great stuff. Totally follow her if you're not already. We love you, Tanika.
We do. So what do you got going on upcoming? Anything fun? Anything new?
Lots of fun stuff. To be honest, it's a lot to list. So I'm not going to. But there's just almost so much. There's so much content on like deck, like in the wings of the stage, that that it's ridiculous. So at this point, I mean, it's, to say just a couple, we are also entering the end zone of wedding planning. And so there hasn't been too much documentation, but there's also hasn't been too much actual things like to document. But I think we're getting into like, you know, tastings, meetings with the planners, more trips to the venue than we've had this whole time. Trials, you know, I've had one makeup trial, but I'm gonna do another one, and all that good stuff. So just gonna let people into that process a little more than I already have been, which has been like none. Um, a very special get ready with me coming up soon, and that is all I will say about that one. It's going to be very special. That's it. It's gonna kick off some big stuff. And then there's actually multiple vlogs coming down the pike. But no actual ETA on that soon. Just within a month or two. What about you?
Rude.
What? Oh, New York. I tuned it out at this point. It's ridiculous.
What about you? Woo!
I
That's what.
just maybe it was like trying to hype you up, you know?
I have not purposefully posted much over the past couple of weeks on Instagram. I think I've been taking a lot of photos, so I'm gonna finally start to share some of those. So the Instagram might look a little different coming up, but it'll be fun. And beyond that, I'm 55 days today till the wedding, and I think that um, starting in April, I'm going to be doing a series on TikTok because I love a good series. Let's be honest. Like my favorite thing was the Black History Month series. That was like so fun for me to do. But I also got a lot of feedback about people like sometimes I forget that like people honestly have never heard of some of these brands. Have honestly like don't even know that that existed or that they could easily go get that. So that was really fun for me. So I like a good series. And so starting April 1st, I'm basically doing a like mental health check starting like a countdown mental health check for the wedding because I feel like it might be good for me to look back on that too and be able to see like the whole ebb and flow of the last 60 days and make some sense out of the chaos of the last 60, well, it'll be 50 days coming up soon for the wedding, but I'm going to be doing that. So look out for some new stuff on the Instagram, and I'm going to be doing a check-in. And honestly, I think that it's nice for other brides. I think the best thing about this like double-edged sword that we're wielding with each other is that you may understand what it's like to be a bridesmaid. You may understand what it's like to be a bride. You may understand what it's like to be a bride and a maid of honor at the same time, but you don't know what it's like to be doing it with your best friend at the same time. Like, so where you are simultaneously the bride and the maid of honor, and your maid of honor and bride is the same. And so I feel like there's different levels to that, but what I think I take away from us doing this together is that I'm not crazy. And so some of this stuff is stressful. Some of this stuff can be avoided. Some of this stuff is necessary to talk about or to share. I never knew that, you know? And so I think that it'll be helpful to other people to kind of like those check-ins that we do with each other pretty much every day because I text her all the time, guys. Not gonna lie. It just happens. We have group chats, we have Instagram chats, we have individual chats. Like we're always chatting. But I think that some of those things that we talk about, or we side eye, or we're like, "Are you on this part? Are you on that?" is really helpful to other brides too. So I just feel like I got a good series coming up. So just to share and to check in. So basically, what that means is if you're not already following our YouTubes and you're not already following our Instagrams, you're going to want to so that you will be able to keep up with all of this fresh content that's going to be coming through. So please do so. And we will see you in a couple of weeks.
We will see you in a couple of weeks.